What's up, everyone? It's your buddy Jayrassic, and I'm hoping that you are having the best day of your entire life today. And today is a great day because nonetheless, we are going to be talking about Planetzoo and the future of Planetzoo and all that other fun Planetzoo stuff. And so, yeah, nonetheless, there's a lot to talk about. And earlier this week, we had a view of the bat and the Egyptian fruit bat, to be precise. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and some other things that we're going to talk about in this video here that I'll kind of let you know right off the bat. We're going to be talking about the types of animations to expect with the bat, and we're also going to be talking about the size of the bat exhibit. Why is it so big? And then on top of that, we're also going to be talking about the future of exhibits now that Frontier has kind of played around with exhibits a little bit more and gave it a nice little facelift. What else can we expect with exhibits in the future? And last but not least, we're going to talk about birds. Are birds in the future for Planetzoo? We're going to talk about that and so much more right here. So hang tight and stay till the very end so then you can go ahead and get all the best juicy content across the Planetzoo community. But before we get into that, we of course got to give it a little shameless plug. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to my channel so then that way you stay updated with all the content that I go ahead and release on a weekly basis. Also, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button because when you like it, it convinces me to make more, and the more content that we get, the more we grow. And of course, it also shows video to other people that like the same interests as you. Also, don't forget to join my Discord where we can talk about DLC speculation all day long, as well as other things that you love and hate about Planetzoo and other great games such as Prehistoric Kingdom and Jurassic World Evolution. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's take flight into the Twilight. So first off, let's take a look at this bat, shall we? I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. Not gonna lie, I love it. I really do. The fur texturing, the fur shading, the membranes in the wings, the little finger digits that extend the ungulate fingers that go throughout the wing itself. And I mean, the wings are detailed to the point that you can even see the veins in it. I mean, I absolutely love this model, not just because it's bad, not just because it's the first flying animal in Planetzoo, but I honestly do love it. It looks so, I love bats, so I love it. So that's really all I gotta say is bravo, Frontier, bravo. Thank you very, very much. I love it to death. And of course, in the background, you see a little bat flying in the background, and we're gonna get into that here in a little bit. So now that we kind of went over the details of the bat model itself, the next thing that we really need to talk about is the animations. And what animations do we expect to see? Well, there's a couple different types of different animations. We got our static, aka loop animations, and we also have dynamic. And what's the difference between the two? Well, static or looping animations are basically a predefined animation that has no interaction with its surroundings. Nothing to do with the terrain, nothing to do with feeders, nothing like that. It's just a looping animation. And we're going to show a demonstration right now, which is with Prehistoric Kingdom. Now, I absolutely love this game, just FYI. It has a lot of potential, and it's, it is, I do love it. I do. Now, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done to it, so this is still the beta here. So just kind of keep that in mind as we're looking in here. But what I did is I went ahead and created an exhibit in Prehistoric Kingdom for the same size that the bat exhibit is going to be. So it's 20 meters long, 12 meters wide, 8 meters tall. And what I did is I went ahead and filled it with four Microraptor and Archaeopteryx exhibits with the null barrier. So basically the null barrier is just the two trees. And you may notice that every single different exhibit, even though they have the exact same number of animals, with a combination of Microraptors and or Archaeopteryx, as well as some are just have Microraptors, some of them have Archaeopteryx. There's several different spawn points. Even though there's only 10 animals allowed in here, there's multiple spawn points. Like, for example, in this one, there is nothing in the bird nest or in the little sleeping nest. Here, there is at least 3 or 4 in there. Same with the feeding station. Like this feeding station, there's 1. Over here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, over here, there is 3, but 2 of them on the bottom and 1 of them sleeping. So yeah, so even though there's static animations or loop animations, they're all different random spawn points. So like here this right here, this tree right here, there's three dinosaurs right there just sleeping. Over here, there's 2 of them. So there are different variables that can make this look realistic, and one of them is just random, is multiple spawn points, but limiting the species count to like 10. So what is the looping animation? Well, basically, if we look at this Archaeopteryx here, you see it flies around for one branch, and then it goes ahead, loops around, and flies to the next one, and goes to the base of the tree, and then it will climb up this tree and over to the limb and repeat itself. And that's what it does. Again, it has no interaction with the surrounding world that is created here. There's no game code that are triggers or anything like that makes the animation vary or anything like that. It's always going to be repetitive, always doing the same thing over and over again. Now, in a bat colony like this, just imagine that these were bats hanging from rocks and stalactites and so forth, and randomly a few flying around and stuff like that. That honestly, in a bat colony, a loop animation would be a good thing. Now, what's the good thing about a loop or static animation? Well, the good thing is that when you have a dynamic or free-flying animation, or just a habitat animal like we have in Planetzoo, each individual animal the AI is calculating traversable terrain for it. The same thing would be with flying animals. It has to calculate perching points. It has to calculate where the food is. It has to calculate any interactive triggers that is programmed to interact with to create an actual animation. That increases your GPU usage. It increases the API or the AI engine, and it can cause some lag and some frame rate ratios issues. So kind of keep that in mind when everyone's hoping that it's dynamic animations. So for a bat colony, honestly, static animations would not be a bad thing, to be honest. I know a lot of people are going to get angry at me for saying that, but let's face it, bat colonies have hundreds, if not thousands of bats. If you go to a bat exhibit at the Omaha Zoo, you'll notice that there are thousands of bats in those exhibits. I mean, if not hundreds. And nonetheless, it's kind of hard to keep track of them all because they're all clustered up in corners and up in the ceiling and stuff like that. And you randomly see some flying around and stuff like that. And it is really cool. And it would be really cool to have dynamic flying animations, but the processing power to have that would be, it would cause a huge lag into the game. And I'm just being realistic here. So keep that in mind. Now, one thing I did do is I did use a null option here as well, just to kind of create like if these were birds, instead of dinosaurs or bats. And as you can see, I just kind of created a null area, a little path, and I think it looks pretty decent. I mean, because by the time, let's face it, you're not just going to sit here and stare at them the whole time. I mean, you could, it'd be fine, but in all reality, more than likely you're just going to stroll to the zoo and so forth, and you're going to see a couple animations and so forth, and birds of these dinosaurs climbing or so forth like that, or flying around, and then and like I said, none of them are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. Well, that one kind of did. That's okay. That kind of defeated what I just said. Thank you, Prehistoric Kingdom. Jesus. So that area I take back, but this area, they're not all doing the same exact thing. So they're all doing different things. So that's just forget that one over there. So, all right, now that we took a look at static and loop animations, let's go ahead and go into our next game, which is Jurassic World Evolution 2, to discuss about dynamic animations. All right, and we are now in Jurassic World Evolution 2, and we are in one of the aviaries that I just quickly built here, and I put in a bunch of pterosaurs throughout the exhibit, just to kind of give an idea as if they were bats and so forth like this. And one thing that you may notice is that the animals are specifically interacting with the terrain. Like for example, this pterosaur was just attacked a goat. The goat is the trigger for that specific animation. They are approaching barriers, but they may run into it and so forth, but then they move on, or they try to escape. Other things that you will see is perching animations as they go ahead and interact with the terrain. and other objects within the aviary. Feeders, buildings, rocks, terrain itself, water, all of it is interactive with the model itself. The only thing that I have noticed is that despite them flying and so forth, most of them avoid the trees, but they still clip through trees. And honestly, if we were to get bats or when we get bats and even birds, they fly into trees anyway. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, everything in this building, in this aviary, whether it be buildings or whatever the case is, are all interactive with the animal. But anyways, all right. So moving along. So the interactive terrain and everything. I mean, like I mentioned, it is very realistic, and everyone wants to have it. The downside with it, and I may get crucified for saying this, but when you have dynamic animations, it takes more AI processing power to have traversable areas where these animals can fly, determining perch points, stuff like that. So the plus side is it is very, very cool. I mean, not gonna lie, it would be very cool. So like I said, if the exhibit itself is probably based off this same concept, that there is free flying, and that's one reason why it's so big. So I guess our next step will be into Planetzoo, where we will now take a look at the exhibit and some other simulated items here that I created in Planetzoo here for you. So hang tight as we get into Planetzoo. All right, and now we are in Planetzoo, and we are taking a look at our old 4x4 exhibits. So now, why you're probably asking why. Well, the reason being is because after talking to a couple of people between switching games and everything, they kind of like, oh, well, what if the game has just like the exhibits where there's some predetermined spawn points and layouts and so forth, like with the cave rocks and stuff like that, and maybe feeders and stuff like that, and those would be either traversable with either dynamic or just loop animations and so forth. So basically, like the way that the exhibit works now, as we all are aware of, you add different enrichment items and stuff like that. So imagine that this is the huge exhibit and we're just adding the rocks and stuff like that. Now this would be great for looping and static animations. Dynamic, I don't believe so much. I don't think that this would be something that we would want. That would be. Now, some people have thought that maybe it was a hybrid where the enrichment items and everything will be pre-selected, that you can select to add the terrain and everything within the exhibit itself, but the animal themselves would be more of a dynamic animation and just interact with those specific spots. Another theory is that there's specific enrichment items that only the fruit bat would actually interact with, and the game calculates the animations from those trigger points. So I went ahead and created a in-game size exhibit here of the bat here, and you may notice it's also color-coded here, and we'll kind of get into that here in a little bit of why that is the way it is. So first off, we'll try and take a look inside. So if indeed this was going to be a static animation, basically what we'd have is we would have specific locations of different terrain, different rocks and stuff like that, and each different area would have like a colony of bats or different spawn points, basically, just like Prehistoric Kingdom did. They have specific spawn points within those two branches of dead trees, and would be random spawn points. Maybe we're allowed to have like 20 bats or 30 bats or something like that, and there's just random spots. That would work great, especially if we have a high amount of bats, because in that way it would save on the AI's processing power within the game, and prevent less lag and stuff like that. The downside is we of course would have less customization aspect. Let's say that we get dynamic free flying animation. Basically what they're theorizing is that the green dots that you see here, I kind of got this idea from Rudy, but the green dots would basically what the game see as different spots where animals can congregate, hanging upside down, sleep. Maybe there's a feeding station they can sit on and stuff like that. So with that all being said, the green dots are what the game would see for these different locations and spawn points would be. The green area itself would be basically this whole green area that you see here is kind of the flyable area that the bats would be able to fly around. The red area is where apparently, according to some of the game developers as well as coding specialists, and say that in order for this to work very well and smoothly, they would actually have areas that would basically be a no-fly zone. So we got our little macaw here. This is going to be our bat, and it's just going to fly over this, our Steve Irwin, which would be our guests and zookeepers. So that's kind of the idea, is that it would just fly over, maybe swoop down somewhat into a little bit of the red area, but mostly this is a no-fly zone. Same with the top here. This is a no-fly zone. Now, in Jurassic World Evolution, the only time that the pterosaurs go up this high towards the ceiling is if they're trying to break out. Other than that, everything is pretty much a interactive item for the bat to interact with, if this is indeed a dynamic flying animation type situation. So that's kind of the idea of what we have here for that. So that's the other reason why it's so big, because of the fact that in order for these dynamic animations to take place, you need a large area for the game to be able to compute transversable terrain. If it's too small, there's not enough area for it to be able to determine where it can fly to and stuff like that. So the next thing is, if it is dynamic, that means that we are going to be able to have pieces that will be perchable and stuff like that. Maybe they'll come up with their own different set of pieces for that specific animal, or they will just be able to perch on anything that you put in here. In all reality, if it's a dynamic animation, you'll be able to put anything in here and the animal should be able to interact with it, whether it be perch on it, poop on it, whatever the case may be. So that's what we would be looking for the bats. So now that we kind of got the reason of why the exhibit is so big, let's talk about the future of exhibits. In order for this to really work, at least for me to really love it, I would really like to have it have a null option, to be honest. So then that way, all these walls are gone. And I would like that with all the exhibits, to be honest. I've been saying that, but you know, it'd be nice to be able to have a null exhibit, so then that way I don't have to see this big ugly thing. Now Nick said that he'll go ahead and make one anyway, so that's already kind of a given at this point, that it be whether modders do it or whether or not Planetzoo gives it to us. So the other reason why I say I want null is so then that way, in the event that we do get birds, we have ability of creating tropical houses or bird houses or whatever without this big concrete box. So nonetheless, that's what I'm really hoping that we'd be able to have, is more of the null berries. The other thing that I think that we really need to have, especially if we're going to get other avian or flying species, is different sizes of exhibits. Now, maybe we won't be able to get smaller exhibits than the 4x4 that we have now. It would be nice if we had smaller exhibits, but let's say hypothetically we don't. We get sizes between this and the 4x4. So maybe we'll get some 8x4s or some 4x12s or 8x12s and stuff like that. So some that are still at that 4-meter high, but maybe just elongated. Maybe an 8x8 exhibit or a maybe 12x12. That's pretty large for an exhibit, but you know, you kind of get the idea. Now, the reason why I'm thinking that we're going to get that, and it'll probably be in the next update if we do, is because of the fact that we are all speculating that birds are going to be the next DLC. That's pretty much what everyone is saying right now. I mean, we already got the flying animations and everything. We got this exhibit box, so we're pretty sure this is the direction that birds are going to go as well. Again, if they're going to make that work, they need to make this null, or at least make us be able to change the exterior of the box to be either null, mesh, or this box like exhibit that we already have. So with that being said, I kind of created my own little aviary. Again, took a little insight from Rudy, you know, again, this would be like a dynamic situation. And of course, if we are to go ahead and have birds, of course, in order to have birds, at one point we want to make sure that the barrier, that is a null barrier like this as well. So then that way we can still walk through and everything like this. And of course, you know, if we're going to go ahead and do that, we'll still have to have that no fly zones area according to a lot of people that are encoding and stuff like that. Why, again, I don't know. I'm not encoding. I was just kind of giving information that I've been told. So again, all these green little dots would be perch spots or resting spots, whatever the case may be for birds and everything like that. Now, of course, when it comes to smaller birds, I hope that, smaller birds and smaller exhibits and everything like that, unfortunately, we can't get away from the static and loop animations. And the reason, again, the smaller animals are just easier with loop animations. So with that being said, we could definitely see something like this, like we did in Prehistoric Kingdom, where we had like two, maybe just one branch here, and it's in a 4x4 area that we can go ahead and do a smaller exhibit for smaller birds, whether it be finches or parakeets, songbirds, morning doves, whatever the case may be. Now, some people are also talking about having raptors. Now, if we are going to have raptors, it'll probably be something big like this, because raptors need a lot of room to fly. However, there are a lot of raptors out there in zoos that are only there because they're injured, so they can't really fly anyway. So basically, animals that could not make it out in the wild on their own are usually in a zoo to live the rest of their days, especially like bald eagles and stuff like that. I've seen that quite a few times at different zoos, where the bald eagle is unfortunately unable to go back into the wild because of injury. So if that's the case, more than likely, that's not going to be a walkthrough exhibit whatsoever. Especially a national treasure like the bald eagle, you're not able to walk in there. Now, they may have them on bird shows and stuff like that, but yeah. But anyways, yeah, moving forward, raptors could be a possibility, but I don't think that they will be in walkthrough exhibits. That's where that other sizing of aviaries would come into place. So yeah, nonetheless, there's a whole bunch of different possibilities that we could have. So, but yeah, I do believe that birds could definitely be an option. Waterfowl could be involved, and we could also get birds that don't need the aviary, but are, like waterfowl, like kind of like the flamingos or other cranes and stuff like that, even though they can fly in real life, they don't in Planetzoo. So that's a possibility where maybe we can get those type of animals that maybe their wings are clipped or whatever, and they don't need to fly. So that's another thought in there as well, if we were to get an aviary pack. But I do hope that we get more flying birds and flying animations of different birds and everything, whether it be dynamic or looping animations, I don't care. So last but not least on the subject at hand, we almost forgot about the anniversary. The anniversary is right around the corner. And the fact that we got this new exhibit pack and so forth, or this new exhibit feature for the Twilight DLC, it would not be shocking to me if we go ahead and get another bat for the Twilight or for the anniversary. I'm thinking maybe on the lines of a flying fox, to be honest, just because it was roughly about the same size, if not a little bit bigger. And, it's something that would be overly welcome. Now, a lot of people are saying it's probably going to be a bird for the anniversary, and honestly, that wouldn't be a bad thing, especially if they're going to lead off into the next DLC. However, I don't think they would go ahead and tip their hat to announcing birds before the actual DLC is announced. So I'm pretty sure getting an anniversary animal in the form of a bird, it's probably going to be non-existent at this point. But anyways, moving along, that's pretty much all I have for today. Definitely put something down in the comments on like what you would like to see for if we are to have a bird DLC, or if you think the animations are going to be static or if they're going to be dynamic. Let me know what you think and what you prefer in the comments down below, or just tell me I'm completely wrong whatsoever. I don't care. It's you're entitled to your opinion, so I'd love to have debates. And of course, you're always more than welcome to go ahead and visit me on my Discord, and we can talk DLC, talk all the time up there. I'm going to try and start a forum within my Discord that will allow you to discuss everything about Planetzoo, whether you hate it, you love it, DLC speculations, the whole work. And if you have knowledge or whatever the case is in game developing, I encourage you to join us in that Discord to share your knowledge with us as well. So that's again all I got for today, and until next time, build, play, and enjoy. This is Jayrassic signing out.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you smash that like button and leave a comment down below. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. That way you keep up to date with all the content that I release on a weekly basis. You can also follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Steam, Discord, as well as Facebook. Till next time, build, play, and enjoy.